The truth about intermittent fasting. Does it really work? So today, we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. A lot of people are doing it. I get asked about it all the time. But what is the truth about intermittent fasting? Now, there's 3 things that I'm going to cover in this discussion today. So I'll tell you if it works, why it works, and who should do it. Let's first answer the question, does it work? Well, it can work. It can help you lose weight. There was a recent study done with over 1,400 people over 16 weeks. And those people that did intermittent fasting lost, on average, just over 11 pounds, or 5 kilos. Now, another study of over 2,000 people found that after 6 months, they had lost almost 20 pounds, or 9 kilos. So yes, it can work. It also can help lower insulin levels, improve blood sugar, lower inflammation markers in your body. So it does have some pretty interesting, powerful benefits. And now, let's get to the second part, which is why does it work? Why does fasting seem to have so many awesome benefits? Well, there's a couple different theories out there. One is called the cellular repair theory. Okay? This basically says when we fast, our body goes through these phases of starvation. First one is called the post-absorptive phase, that occurs right after you eat. Then the next phase is called the transition phase. This is when your body shifts from using the food you just ate to using the energy stored in your liver. And then the third phase is called the starvation phase. This is when your body starts to use its own fat for energy. And during the starvation phase, your body will start to perform all these other functions, including repairing DNA, removing damaged proteins, getting rid of old damaged cell membranes, and recycling them to make new cell membranes. So it really is like a recycling center as well. And then the last one is the recovery phase. This is when you either continue to fast or you break your fast. And this is when your body fully repairs all this damage and then rebuilds new cells. So a lot of the benefits of fasting occur in this starvation phase and the recovery phase. So it's not so much the calories that you're taking in. It's what your body is doing during these 2 phases that produce the beneficial effects. Another theory for why fasting works is something called autophagy. Autophagy is a Greek word where auto means self, and phagy means eat or digest. So you put those together and you get autodigest. What is autophagy? It's basically the process where your body recycles old, damaged proteins and other cellular debris into amino acids and proteins that are brand new and fresh. So again, you're breaking down old damaged stuff and building up new healthy stuff. And there's even been some research showing that eating certain foods such as broccoli sprouts and leafy greens can activate autophagy. And there's other research showing that fasting can actually increase autophagy by 100 times. Wow. So it really seems like fasting helps your body clean up all the garbage and rebuild new healthy cells. And that is why you feel better when you fast. Now, who should do fasting? Well, here's my recommendation. People that are overweight or obese. So if you fall into that category, you may want to consider doing some type of intermittent fasting because it can be very effective at helping you lose weight, improving your blood sugars, your insulin resistance, and a whole host of other conditions that are associated with being overweight. Also, I recommend fasting for people that have insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome or prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Fasting can help reverse that condition. In fact, there's a lot of doctors out there that recommend fasting to their patients that have that condition. And even people without those diseases or conditions can benefit from fasting. You know, you could be perfectly healthy and still benefit from lowering inflammation, increasing growth hormone, and having all these other benefits that I talked about earlier. Now, how do you do intermittent fasting? Well, there's several different ways. You have the 16/8 method. It's where you fast for 16 hours, only consuming calories within an 8-hour window. So let's say you consume your calories between the hours of 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. You would fast for the other 16 hours. And during those 16 hours, you would only consume non-caloric beverages like water, coffee, or tea. And I always recommend that people drink some type of electrolyte powder in their water. And they re-fasting, just to prevent muscle cramps. Because when you're redoing fasting, you're drinking a lot of water. And you can deplete your electrolytes, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So it's good to replace those electrolytes. Now, another way of doing fasting is called the 5-2-2 diet. With this diet, you eat normally for 5 days a week, and you restrict your calories to 2 days a week. So you'd want to pick 2 non-consecutive days, maybe Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday, or whatever combination. And on those 2 days, you would only consume 25% of your normal calories. So let's say you have 2,000 calories per day, you would only consume 500 calories on those 2 days. Now there's another form of fasting called periodic prolonged fasting. With this method, you would do 3 or more 24-hour fasts per week. So you do fasting for an entire day. You would not consume any calories for 24 hours, and then you would eat normally for the rest of the week. Now, one of the most extreme forms of fasting is called the Eat Stop Eat method. With this, you would fast for 2 non-consecutive days per week. For example, you might fast on Monday and Thursday. You would not eat anything on those 2 days. Then you'd eat normally the rest of the week. And with this method, it's important to make sure that you consume enough protein because you're not eating for 2 days. So make sure you're getting enough protein. Another form of fasting is called the warrior diet. This is where you would consume 5 small meals per day with a big meal at the end of the day. So let's say you consumed your first meal at 12 p.m., then another meal at 3 p.m., another meal at 6 p.m., and then you'd save your biggest meal for 9 p.m. So it's kind of designed for people that want to eat at, odd times of the day. So this might work well for someone that has a busy schedule and they coo and stick to a normal 3 meals a day. Now, are there any side effects with fasting? Yes, there can be side effects. When you first start fasting, you may experience hunger, irritability, fatigue, headaches, low energy, brain fog, and even nausea. And I recommend starting out slowly. Don't jump into doing 24-hour fasts. Start out by just doing 16 by 8. Do that for a few weeks and then go to the 52 diet for a few weeks, and then you could progress to some of the other ones. So it's really important to start out slow and listen to your body. If you're feeling hungry, make sure you're drinking enough water, because sometimes hunger can mimic thirst. Another thing you can do is consume some non-caloric beverage, like black coffee or tea or sparkling water, just to kind of fill the void of not having food. And in regards to sleeping, some people ask the question, does fasting affect your ability to sleep? Well, in most cases, no, it doesn't. But in some cases it can, especially if you're doing longer fasts. So if you find that you're having trouble sleeping, you may need to shorten your fast. But in most cases, you can still sleep normally while you're fasting. Another question I get asked a lot is, what supplements should I take when I'm fasting? Well, I recommend taking a multivitamin and maybe an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. Now, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you may want to consider taking B12, and if you're exercising and sweating a lot, you may want to consider a basic electrolyte powder. So hopefully you can see the potential benefits of fasting, and hopefully I answered your questions about fasting. But if you have additional questions, leave me a comment below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and check out my other videos on natural health and wellness.